What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 54 of Convo Breaker Geek Podcast. I am your host, as always, Mario Valdez. Whew, guys, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Yeah, this episode is about Avengers Infinity War. It opened all over today. I got to see an early showing yesterday at 7 p.m. And all I can say is spoiler alert, guys. So this is just gonna be nothing but spoilers this episode. Usually I talk about news before and then I talk about the main piece of news. But I'm gonna skip all the news stuff since I've been posting on my on the Facebook page at Combo Breaker Geek Podcast. So yeah, I'm just gonna use this episode to just dig into Avengers Infinity War. If you haven't seen it yet and you don't care about spoilers, well then welcome to the show. I'm gonna talk all about it. I'm gonna talk about as much stuff as I can possibly talk about on the movie. I wrote tons of notes. So yeah, like I said, spoilers. I'm gonna get into it, and I'll give you my rating of the movie and what I thought about it overall. So okay, let's get into it. So Avengers: Infinity War. This movie was not only did it look beautiful, but it was done in my opinion, perfectly. Directed by the Russo brothers, who also did Captain America, Winter Soldier, and they also did Civil War. If I'm correct, they're going to be doing the next Avengers, which is Avengers 4. But yeah, this movie, I saw the first early showing in the U.S. Aside from the red carpet screenings, all that good stuff. And aside from the media screenings, I got to see it in IMAX 3D. This, for those of you guys who don't know, this was the first Hollywood movie filmed entirely with IMAX cameras. And let me tell you, I have not seen an IMAX 3D film in quite some time. I've seen them in IMAX standard, but this movie looked fucking amazing in IMAX 3D. Of course, because it was filmed entirely with IMAX cameras. But yeah, I haven't enjoyed a 3D movie in quite some time. It's been a long time. I even saw Guardians of the Galaxy in IMAX 3D, and even that one, I'm not talking about the movie, but I'm talking about 3D wise. That movie, even then, didn't impress me as much. There were certain parts that did. I did see that movie multiple times though, but this movie, I mean, if you get a chance to see it in IMAX 3D, and I wear glasses, so I kind of struggle with that. I don't like it, but this one just yeah, it was just amazing. I'm gonna go back to see it again in IMAX standard. Um, like I said, I suggest you see it. Before I get into it, still talking about the pre-movie stuff. Um, the theater I went to, like I said again, it was an early showing, Thursday night early showing. My theater was filled with awesome people. Um, from the very beginning, everybody was just cool, just like laughing and talking about whatever. And when the movie came on, everybody cheered, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be one of these groups, right? But no, throughout the film, everybody was quiet, everybody was respectful, nobody was saying stupid stuff. But one thing that I did enjoy that made my experience with this movie even better was that in key moments of the film, big action sequences or during major character introductions, basically people would cheer or there was a round of applause. And usually that bugs me in movies, but for this movie, like it just felt right. Like it was just fucking awesome. It just felt like a group of friends going to watch a movie. I mean, this is 10 years worth of Marvel films. I believe this was like the 16th entry, if I'm correct. But yeah, this movie was awesome. So now going on digging into the movie, basically, if you I'm gonna go back and jump back and forth into how it's connected to Infinity Gauntlet because I did read Infinity Gauntlet and I did do a pretty shitty job of talking about the Infinity Gauntlet on episode 53, but I did get through it. But after watching the movie, I kind of remembered more of what I read and how it could and what they took from it. Um, so basically, what this movie is about, just like I heard the Russo brothers had said that not only was this an Avengers movie, but this was a Thanos movie. Um, so basically, Thanos believes that the universe is not balanced, and he believes that he's the one to bring it to balance. In order to do that, he has to wipe out half of I was gonna say human life, but it goes throughout the universe that he needs to destroy half of life in the universe. So yeah, I should put it that way. So slight differences in the comic book. Death believes that. Death believes that there's imbalance in the universe, and that yeah, she needs to tip the scale, and because in Infinity Gauntlet, in case you guys didn't hear that episode, she the imbalance to her is that there are more people alive than there are dead and that have died. So she revives or basically resurrects Thanos, and she has Thanos to do that. But here, this is all Thanos' idea, and this is all what he believes that he needs to do, and that he believes that there is an imbalance in the universe. So then from there, he, of course, goes after the Infinity Stones because he knows with that he can do that. And basically, I'm going to cut forward a little bit. It leads up to basically one main action, and that's the snapping of his fingers that will eliminate all life in the universe. So in the movie, it ends with that scene, or it ends with that sequence. And in the comic book, it actually kind of begins with that sequence. He snaps his fingers to try to impress death and wipes out all, half of life in the universe. So basically, people disappear, they vanish, and basically they die. Um, so I'll head into that part of the movie. So let me take you from the beginning. Actually, let me write this one piece of note down that I just remembered real quick because I wrote tons of notes for this movie. Um, okay, so in the beginning it picks up right after Thor Ragnarok. So if you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, basically Thor and Loki end up with Heimdall on the ship with the remainder of the survivors of Asgard. And so basically, yeah, they're out there in space, and after dealing with Hela and having Asgard destroyed, they're out looking for some basically refuge or salvation. And then the post-credit scene for that movie, they see a ship approaching them, and we all get the feeling that it's one of Thanos' warships. So this movie picks up right after that, and basically when we see the Marvel title card, instead of hearing the pages flip, it's just silence. So as you're seeing the Marvel title page come up, you're hearing a distress call from the we'll call it New Asgard because I think that's what it's called in the comics. I'm not sure that's what they named it in the MCU or the movie, but we'll call it New Asgard, the ship carrying the surviving Asgardians. So you get a distress signal. You hear a distress signal coming from New Asgard, and basically, yeah, they're also trying to talk to the ship, saying like, "Hey, we're not a warship. Ceasefire. Our engines are failing and all this stuff." Then we finally get inside the ship, and you see Thanos and the Black Order. They basically slaughtered the remainder of the Asgardians, and you see Thor pretty much close to death under Thanos' foot, and you see Loki surrounded by the Black Order, and they're basically looking for one of the first. I think no, they're looking for the second Infinity Stone. And what's crazy about this is they pretty much skip how he attained the first one, and basically they say it in the movie that he pretty much laid waste to Xandar, which pretty shitty when you kind of look at it, and if you were a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, he pretty much destroyed Xandar because we all know Nova Corps had possession of that stone. So Xandar got wiped out. We don't see that in this movie, but it's said in the movie that's how he got. Well, I mean, of course, there was no other way to get it, but they show the lengths that he goes to get these stones. With that said, too, I'll kind of jump ahead of myself a little bit, but Thanos is probably the best villain that we've had in the MCU, even topping Loki. I know I had an episode on MCU villains, and I kind of did a ranking of the villains that we had up to that point. And yeah, he's Thanos was the ultimate. How can I say this? He was the ultimate definition or personification of a villain believing he's doing the right thing, but with it being, of course, the wrong thing, having to do with death and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so he was an awesome villain. They dove into his background a little bit. He was ruthless, and the way he worked, he laid out his plan too. It was just pretty much it was straightforward. You know, he had his guys doing his dirty work, or even setting up, giving him an advance, I guess. And yeah, so yeah, he was just real straightforward. He didn't, spend any time bullshitting around. He did what he needed to do, and he did what he thought was the right thing for him to do in order to achieve his goal. Um, so anyways, back to the beginning. So yeah, you see Loki is surrounded, and basically Thanos wants the Tesseract. Um, so Loki tries to, I guess, not weasel his way out, but Thanos says, "Look, it's either you give me the Tesseract or I kill your brother," right? So Loki's all like, "Yeah, fine, go ahead, kill my brother." So he's using the Power Stone against Thor's face, and I'm like, "Oh shit, he's gonna kill him." And then seeing this, Loki's all like, "Shit!" Like I mean, come on, he has his pretty much the Asgardians who adopted him. They're dead around his feet at this point, and so he kind of gives in, and he's like, "No, you know what? Here, I have the Tesseract. It's fine." Um, so oh, let me write another note real quick before I forget this. Okay, so yeah, so then he ends up giving the Tesseract to Loki. I mean, Loki ends up giving the Tesseract to Thanos, and he tries to, of course, he saved Thor's life, but then he tries to use it, of course, his trickery, and tries to display loyalty to Thanos. And while doing so, he actually attempts to well, wound him or stab him or kill him. So, of course, Thanos sees this, and so this is where one of my predictions comes true, or this is where one of my predictions becomes, that I predicted right. Um, Sorry, I kind of fumbled with my words there. So basically what ends up happening is this is of course the beginning of the movie. I want to say maybe the first 10-15 minutes. Thanos sees this. Of course, he's not happy. He kept his end of the deal, sparing Thor. Um, so right before this happens, Loki calls out Hulk. And he's like, "Hey, we have Hulk, right?" So Hulk comes out. Um, Him and Thanos get into a little fight, and Thanos ends up crazy. Of course, he has the Power Stone, overpowering the Hulk, and ends up pretty much beating the shit out of the Hulk. Um, so with this is where Loki tries to do a little trick, and basically Thanos snaps his neck. I mean, this was crazy because this was a pretty brutal death for you hitting right out the gate. I knew this was going to happen. I don't know how many people else thought this, but I did predict it, and that was one of my predictions, and it came true of Loki dying so early in the film. So yeah, Thor was of course not happy about this. So with that, Thanos pretty much is gonna leave, head for the next stone, and he destroys what's left of New Asgard. But before doing so, Heimdall actually uses his last ounce of strength before his death, and he's basically uses the Bifrost power to send Hulk to Earth, basically to save him. Um, and with that, the Thanos kills Heimdall. So that sucks. You have two pretty cool characters die in the beginning of the film, Loki and Heimdall. On top of that, it's kind of weird because we assume Korg dies. Korg was on there. Of course, he didn't serve. He's not in the movie. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he bit the dust. So for anyone who was wondering about Korg, I'm pretty sure Korg didn't make it out alive on that. And then with that, right before an explosion, um, no, actually, Thor actually survives the explosion, but we'll get to that later when he meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. So pretty much everybody's dead. Hulk is getting sent to Earth. This is where it gets crazy. So this is actually picked up off of the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. So when Hulk crashes to Earth, he ends up crashing right through the Sanctum Sanctorum, where Doctor Strange is, and Doctor Strange and Wong. So you have Wong and Strange there, and basically when he hits through and he crashes through a Doctor Strange staircase, they look at him. Of course, there's this guy who just crashed through it. They see Hulk. At that point, they see Hulk well, what's left of Hulk transforming back to Banner, and basically he's giving the warning that Thanos is coming. Well, in the comic book, you actually have two characters in this MCU movie taking the spot of the Silver Surfer. Um, uh, Silver Surfer spot or the Silver Surfer slot that he had in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. So this is the first one. So yeah, so basically Hulk gives the warning, and in the comic book, Silver Surfer was the one who crashed through the Sanctum Sanctorum after a battle with Thanos, and who gives Doctor Strange the warning that Thanos is coming. So that was pretty cool. So that was taken from the comic book. So here, this is where we see Banner, Doctor Strange, Wong, and Iron Man team up against the first assault on Earth by Thanos and the Black Order. With that said, all the action scenes in this movie were legit as fuck. And of course, because we were dealing with the Russo brothers, who actually have a pretty good track record with MCU fight sequences. Um, this one also too. Speaking of Doctor Strange and fight sequences, even I mean throughout the whole movie, this was Doctor Strange's a role from the beginning of the movie to the end. They amped him up. This was probably the Doctor Strange everybody wanted to see in his solo movie. But I mean, he used more of his powers. He did more. He even summoned a sword with his magic. He used the time stone a little bit. I'll get to that later. Um, but yeah, so he they did a pretty good job of amping up everybody's powers, but I think the Doctor Strange is one of the standout ones, especially since this has only been his pretty much second appearance. I mean, we could say that I think what was his other appearance? It was in Thor Ragnarok, yeah, the post credit scene. But I mean, this is like it was his second full legit movie to be a part of, and they did a good job ramping him up. Let me see. So let's go on a little bit forward. With that said, so after I'm gonna jump around through parts of the movie if you haven't seen it. Basically, I just laid out the whole movie for you. This is what it's about. Thanos is going after the stones, and basically, the movie's called Infinity War, and basically what it is battle after battle, and everybody trying to get together and see, what they can do to stop him. Because he's pretty much one step of the game with everybody, and the only thing they can do at this point is there's two stones that they're trying to guard: the Time Stone and the Mind Stone, which is with Vision, and I'll get to that in a bit too. Another key player. Aside from everybody else, was surprisingly Thor. Thor was a key player in that, well, of course, his hammer was destroyed by Hela. Well, what we find out later is that, well, everyone knew he was going to get a new weapon. He ends up getting his new hammer, the Stormbreaker, with the help of, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot his name again, but a dwarf who lives on a forging planet. Basically, they forge all the weapons, all the best weapons in the galaxy, and actually that's where the gauntlet that Thanos has was forged. So anyway, Thor goes here separate. When everybody splits up in different teams, you have after the first battle in New York, you have Banner, Iron Man, Wong, and Doctor Strange. But then it ends up splitting, and they end up going into space with Iron Man coming up with the solution that maybe they should take the fight to his home, to his turf. Kind of like how what happened in Infinity Gauntlet. They actually went into space to battle Thanos. So here you have Doctor Strange, Spider Man, and Iron Man, basically on the ship heading to, go to Thanos' planet of Titan, where one of the final battle sequences takes place. Because you have two major battles take place in the end. You have one battle on Titan with one team, and then you have another battle on Wakanda with another team. So let me go on a little bit more. So you have that team, and then you also have Thor, who ends up when the Guardians of the Galaxy rescue him after the explosion, when Thanos pretty much decimates New Asgard. Thor ends up splitting with Rocket and Groot. So you have Thor, Rocket, and Groot on one team, and then you have Star Lord and the rest of the Guardians on another mission. So basically, Thor's mission was to get the Stormbreaker, get this weapon that he knows they can probably give him a better chance at taking out or even defending the Infinity Stones or taking out Thanos. Which was crazy too is when we find out about Stormbreaker. A Stormbreaker actually has the power to summon power of the Bifrost. So it lets him travel to Earth once he acquires Stormbreaker. And the crazy thing is that not only was he a major key player in this movie, but my theater was so awesome because it got me and my sister into it. I went to go watch the movie with my sister, and when Thor comes out on that final battle in Wakanda with the Stormbreaker, even before that, oh my God, his entrance was amazing. Everybody broke into cheer. When he comes out and just fucking, I mean, he's in beast mode with the Stormbreaker. I mean, pretty much everybody that he knew is dead or loved it was dead. Loved was dead. His mom, his dad, his brother. You know, his fucking his his how can I say this? His ancestry, I guess. You know, his people. You know, they're all gone. So he has nothing else to live for, and he's like, you know, if I don't do this, you know, at least try, you know, it doesn't really matter anyways. So yeah, Stormbreaker. Thor was another character that they amped up aside from Doctor Strange. Pretty much everybody in this movie was amped up. And speaking of amped up, Iron Man had his new armor. I think this was the Mark 50 armor, aka Bleeding Edge armor. And oh my god, this armor was probably my favorite armor that Iron Man has had so far. His upgrades in this with this armor were just so fucking insane. Like they should have done more with the upgrades that he had in the previous movie. And speaking of Iron Man, one of the biggest disappointments that I had was in Iron Man 3 with the House Party Protocol. Though the House Party Protocol was cool, it was lame in the fact that they used a lot of the mark numbers for the armors. They used them for nothing basically. Like a lot of the armors not only look like crap, but they were pretty much pointless and useless, and they looked just like like a previous one before that maybe had a slight modification that maybe were like, oh, this is to do this. The reason why I say that though is that if you owned a home video version of Iron Man 3. If I'm correct, it is a legit Easter egg. If you don't know about Easter eggs, go ahead and listen to my bonus episode, Ready Player One Easter egg episode, where I explain about Easter eggs. This one, if I'm correct, is actually hidden on in that menu. And basically, what it is you get to access. I think if I'm correct, you need an app to access that because I remember I had the app for that. So basically, what it is you would be able to access all the armors. Uh, that he had in House Party Protocol. There was probably like 30 plus, if I'm correct. And you'd be able to read about them and look at them and look at their design on the app or on the home video Blu-ray or DVD release or whatever the home video release. So yeah, so basically this was like the first time that I see his armor legit upgraded to the I mean to the point where it's like holy shit. He had these like things that would project from his sides that would like do these pulses or like do extra or they like would give him extra juice or extra power. He had boosters on his arms now instead of just his legs, and he had these weird he uses it more in the final battle on Titan against Thanos. Like his legs could expand and they would like kind of ground him so that he can do a more powerful arm attack or fist attack, and then his fist would also kind of expand too, and they would like grow bigger. And on top of that, he also had a shield that kind of to me it resembled Captain America's shield, because I'll get to Captain America getting a new shield later. But yeah, so his armor, the Mark 50 Bleeding Edge, was just fucking amazing. It was sick. Speaking of upgrades, Spider-Man gets an upgrade. So we all knew that Spider-Man was gonna get the because of course for those of you who don't know, I only saw the initial trailer. I didn't see any of the trailers that followed or any of the TV spots or any of the special featurettes that came out before the movie. But we all knew that Spider-Man was gonna get the Iron Spider costume, right? But what we didn't know was that he was going to get the legs, the legs that come out, like the legit Iron Spider costume, the red and gold one from the comic books. Oh my God, when those fucking legs popped out, everybody went insane. Like that, I was not expecting that. I don't know how many people were, because in my mind, not a lot of people were expecting that, or nobody was expecting it, but that was a huge fucking surprise. So seeing a legit Iron Spider, basically his suit was the Iron Spider from the comic books, just with a different color scheme. But oh my God, it looked amazing. The way he used his the way he moved, his movements, and the way he moved in battle with, that extra, with those extra legs, with the extra capability of movement. It was just fucking insane. And then let me go jump back just a little bit. So as I was talking before about the battle with the Hulk and Thanos. The other surprising thing is that that is the only time that we see the Hulk in the movie. They did a very good job of tricking us in the trailers, showing Hulk charging with everybody else in Wakanda. The Hulk doesn't come out again because after that battle, the Hulk actually becomes scared to come out. Bruce tries to get him to come out, for battles that came after, and nope, we never see the Hulk after that again, aside from the opening sequence, and it's because the Hulk pretty much got the shit beat out of him, and yeah, Hulk was scared, so Hulk, yeah, no Hulk for no smash for Hulk in this film. So with that said, that solved another mystery, and that I guess confirmed another theory that Banner was in the Hulkbuster suit in the battle in Wakanda. So we didn't have a Hulk and Thor Hulkbuster fighting simultaneously. Basically, there was no Hulk at all after the opening sequence, and basically you have Banner in the Hulkbuster suit in order to add something to the battle. So that was pretty insane. And then also too, keeping on that opening scene, I know I keep going back to it, but that it actually establishes a whole bunch of stuff. Thanos always comes to this. He came to this. What can I say? He came to this crossroad a couple of times in the movie where someone offered him the stone in order to spare someone's life. And there's a line or a moment that he has with Gamora telling her that, I taught you this and I taught you that, but I never taught you to lie. You lied to me about knowing where the soul stone was, because it's also too uh what's it called? Shown in this movie that Gomorrah was actually key to the final stone. She knew where the location was, and basically she lied to Thanos about knowing where it was at, or that she knew where it was at, and that was in order to save uh, Nebula's life. So Thanos is one who does not lie. He's straight up. Um, so yeah, he pretty much spared the lives of those that he said. I mean, he didn't kill Thor directly. He did blow up New Asgard, but I mean, he didn't kill him. He could have, like straight up killed him. He could have killed Nebula too, and then later on, he also could have killed Iron Man, and we'll get to that later too. So Thanos is one who keeps his word, but who is firm into what he's gonna do, and he's firm to what he tells you he's gonna do. So going on a little bit more, after everybody starts to realize that shit, we need to go after Thanos. Um, there's a really cool fight sequence that happens. I think it's one of the next ones when the Black Order are going after the Mind Stone. We find out that, of course, after Civil War, Scarlet Witch and the Vision, of course, become a thing. They become each other's love interests, like in the comic books. They actually go into hiding. Well, not really. They kind of go off the grid a little bit. They're supposed to be kept in under surveillance, for their safety, and they actually go away for a little while. Or they hide from everybody just so they can give themselves time with each other. Um, so with that, another thing that's crazy is that Vision is powerless through this whole movie. He actually loses his powers to phase through because of a wound that he got from the Black Order during this battle. But with him down, Scarlet Witch is amped up. We see her do more stuff. That is freaking insane. And what another insane thing about this fight sequence is that we see a fucking awesome introduction from three Avengers. You see Captain Widow, Falcon, and I mean, oh, sorry, Captain America, Falcon, and Black Widow join this fight in order to save Scarlet Witch and Vision. Because I thought they were both gonna die at this point, but they come in and their entrance is fucking amazing, and they pretty much beat the shit out of the two Black Order uh, uh, members who come after Scarlet Witch and Vision. So that the crowd went crazy too when they came out. You see, Black. They kind of. It's cool how they cut it in the trailer where they have Captain America stepping out of the shadow when Black Panther says, "Get this man a shield." I guess I'm pretty sure everybody assumed that that was happening on Wakanda, but it wasn't. This was actually on two different parts of the film. So Captain America steps out of the shadows and he's all like, "Yeah, we're here to, pretty much save Scarlet Witch and Vision. They're not by themselves." And then when he comes out, you have Falcon come out, and then you have Black Widow come out. So yeah, they had an awesome entrance. With that, after everyone kind of groups together a little bit, everybody's trying to find out what they're gonna do next. And another thing is confirmed. So everybody's trying to figure out where Hawkeye and Ant-Man are, why they aren't in the marketing. There was a whole bunch of theories that came out, and of course I nailed another theory. So this was like the second theory that I named. I mean that I nailed, and it was that the reason why Hawkeye wasn't around was because of course he has a family. He's the only Avenger that has a family. Um, so instead of being part of the battle, he thinks that it's safer and better to be with his family and get them to safety. So we don't see Hawkeye at all. But we also find out that he isn't the only one. The same reason applies to Ant-Man, and I totally forgot that he had a family too, with his ex-wife and his daughter. So the reason why Hawkeye and Ant-Man aren't in this film is because they have families and they decide not to join the battle because it's safer that way. So yeah, I nailed another prediction. I'm so fucking happy that I did that. We jump a little bit ahead and we find out that Thanos is after another stone, which is the one that I forget which stone this was, but if I'm correct, this was the Ether, and this is the one that the Warriors 3 delivered to the Collector. So of course, Star Lord, Drax, and Mantis. I think it was just them three at this point. Let me see if I'm missing anybody. No, I think Nebula might have been there too. Yes, Nebula was there too. So at this point, you have Drax, Mantis, Star Lord, and Nebula. So they go there to see if they can get the next stone. So basically, they get there too late. Um, I assume the Collector is dead too. Um, and no, actually. Yeah, okay, so that's the ether, which is the reality stone. Because of course this is where he starts to fuck with reality, and this is where they take a little bit more from the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. So they get there, and we find out, of course, that Thanos had already had the stone, and he tricks him, and of course, Gamora ends up at the hands of Thanos, and earlier, right before that part in the film, um, Gamora makes Star-Lord promise her that look, if Thanos gets a hold of her for him to kill her, um, and you get a little deeper into their relationship in this movie, which is cool because everybody's arcs, they their stories get progressed in this movie. Like you would think, like how can they balance so many characters? This movie does a fucking amazing job of balancing so many characters and following their arcs and progressing their arcs. So at this point, uh, you have Drax and Mantis taking a charge at Thanos, and this is the first time we see a fucking comic book accurate, um, uh, uh, pretty much a adaptation. What happens is Drax and Mantis come forward and using the Reality Stone, uh, basically well, for one, he changes like in midair, he changes Drax into like these stone pieces and he falls to the ground. I'm like, fuck, he just killed Drax. And then he turns Mantis into like this weird like slinky thing. So I mean it's really trippy to watch, but what was crazy for me is that I read the Infinity Gauntlet and he does stuff like that in the story. So he's basically like just toying with people, and he's like just doing whatever. And on here, in the Infinity Gauntlet, he does it he tries to do it to impress Death. So he's just like toying with different people and like fucking with them, and that was just crazy to see. And I was like, fuck, he killed them, right? So then it gets to the point. Oh, excuse me. He gets to the point where Star Lord decides to kill Gamora in front of Thanos, and as he pulls the trigger, it's nothing but bubbles comes out because of course he can control reality, and I was like, no fucking way, right? So Thanos ends up getting away with Gamora, and when he leaves, I guess the power of the reality kind of dissipates, and Drax and Mantis return back to normal, and Star Lord's there, and so yeah, and then it's revealed that that nowhere was destroyed the whole time. Because when they get there, it kind of looks like it's not destroyed, and that the collector is still there. But no, yeah, pretty much nowhere was destroyed, and I'm pretty sure Xandar looked exactly the same. So that was pretty crazy. So then there was another battle that takes place. That's a So after the battle, the first battle in New York with Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Banner, um, Doctor Strange gets captured because that's when the Black Order was going after the Time Stone. Um, so in order to rescue him, Iron Man goes on the ship and follows the Black Order in order to get to Doctor Strange. So Spider Man then ends up sneaking on, so he ends Iron Man ends up having backup. And supposedly that torture scene with Doctor Strange was actually taken from one of the Infinity storylines. I'm not sure which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was from the Infinity storyline that came out like 5 or 6 years ago. I think this was right around the time Guardians of the Galaxy came out, if I'm correct. Um, so this was a cool part. So for those of you who listen to the podcast, you guys know that Alien and Aliens are one of my favorite movies, or that the Alien franchise is one of my favorite movies. But the first Alien is one of my favorites. And if we all remember Civil War, there's a part where Spider-Man has a he spews out a reference and goes, "Hey guys, you remember in that Star Wars movie where what they do to the AT-ATs, and and basically he says that reference so that they can give so he can give everybody a clue as to how they can take down Ant Man when he turns into Giant Man, or when he gets big. So yeah, they take him down, and in this one, he goes, yeah, just like in that, he goes, he had an idea on how to take out the Black Order guy to save Doctor Strange. He's like, yeah, have you guys ever seen the movie Alien? And Tony Stark's all like, look, we don't have time for your references. And I was like, what exactly is he talking about? So basically, they do Spider Man's plan, and what they do is, since they're in space, they blow a hole through the side. Um, and basically it sucks out oh my god, I forgot the guy's name from the Black Order. I think something Corvius, or I should have written down their names. I forgot their names because I know Proxima Midnight is one of them, and Super Giant, I think, is one of them. So anyways, so yeah, he gets sucked out of the fucking side of the ship, and basically he freezes in space. And I was like, good, that dude's a fucking dick. And I remember everybody clapping because yeah, they saved Doctor Strange's life from that guy because he was ready to kill him and take the Time Stone. So that one was another cool battle. So you had Spider Man and Iron Man uh, team up for that. Oh, excuse me. So that was amazing. So then, so yeah, like I said, we don't see Hulk again. Let me skip that. Um, so let me jump a little bit ahead again. So going after the next stone, pretty much Gamora saves Nebula's life. Pretty much saying like she tells Thanos, "Yeah, look, I'll tell you where the stone is if you save Nebula's life," because he's torturing her, thinking that Nebula knows, or maybe I think he kind of actually used her as bait, knowing that Gamora will come to save Nebula. So we end up finding out that the Soul, this part of the movie was fucking amazing. I think this part of the movie, I literally said, "Holy shit!" So they get to this planet where the Soul Stone is, and Thanos is all like, "Okay, Gamora, it better be here, right?" So they get to the planet, and they're making their way up to where the Soul Stone should be, and this floating figure appears. Kind of looks like Death, and it looks like he's floating, but he has this like cape, like this frayed cape, and so he's telling them like, "Look, if you want the Soul Stone, are you sure you want the Soul Stone? This is what you have to do it." And then he reveals himself, and drum roll, guys, if you guys have not seen the movie and you're listening to this for spoilers, it is the fucking Red Skull. Red Skull did indeed survive Captain America: The First Avenger when the Tesseract shot him up into whoever knew, or I mean, whoever knows where the fuck he was sent. But Red Skull survived, and we find out that he's been on this planet, and he tried to get the Soul Stone, and he just couldn't get it. Um, and basically, he's warning Thanos, like, look, are you sure you want to do this? I've been here, and I've seen, people fall trying to, whatever, whatever. And basically, what the key to the Soul Stone was that you basically have to sacrifice something that you love, or someone that you love. Basically, you trade a soul for a soul. Then Gamoras are like, ha, you're not gonna get the Soul Stone because you never loved anybody, right? Like how the fuck are you gonna get it? Like, you're so screwed. The universe doesn't want you to do this. Unfortunately, we dive into Thanos is past, and when he destroys Gamora's planet and her people, he actually spares her and takes her on as his daughter. And when we fast forward, when I get you back to this point in time, uh, it's shown that yeah, that he loved Gamora the whole time, and he basically grabs her, and she's screaming, and he throws her down the pit, and she dies, and he basically traded her soul for the Soul Stone, and he struggled with that, but he did it, and he's basically he convinced himself that look, this is what he needs to do. He can't have anything stop him, and even though he loves her, he has to sacrifice her in order to do what he thinks is right, which is bring balance to the universe, which makes him such a fucking awesome villain. And what's crazy going back to Red Skull is that Hugo Weaving was saying so many times that he, had a miserable time playing Red Skull, and he didn't like being in the makeup. And to me, one of my favorite looking villains in the movies was Red Skull. One of my favorite characters is Captain America, always has been. And with that, Red Skull is one of my favorite villains. So seeing Red Skull in this movie was, I think everybody was just fucking blown away in my theater. Um, Everybody was just like, holy shit. And that was another theory that was not my theory or not my prediction, but a fan theory confirmed that, yeah, Red Skull indeed survived. And it was just so fucking insane to see him in this movie. Um, so yeah, that was awesome. So that's when he gets another stone. So then let's go on. Um, the time stone. So Doctor Strange has the time stone. Doctor Strange, Spider Man, and Iron Man get to Titan. And I think at this point, Groot. No, Groot isn't there. Who joins them? Who else is there? Oh, Nebula's there. So you have Nebula. Yeah, you have Nebula, Spider Man. Oh yeah, because Star Lord and Nebula join them. So it's because they're actually looking for Gamora. They're going after Thanos, after she was taken. So this is where everybody kind of meets up. Well, that's where this team meets up. So you have, okay, let me go through this again. So it's Spider Man, Doctor Strange, Iron Man. Ah, here we go. Drax, Star Lord, and Nebula. So they're all there, right? Thanos comes, and right before he comes though, um, Doctor Strange starts doing this weird thing with the stone, and we find out that he used the time stone to view alternate realities to see what the probability of winning against Thanos was. Basically, he sees all these realities, and he finds out like after I don't know how many thousands or millions that in all those realities they only win they only win against Thanos once. What's crazy is that we never find out how that happens, and I don't know why they couldn't make that plan work or they couldn't make that happen. I don't understand why he couldn't just tell them like, hey, look, this is what we need to do in order to win. I don't know what the rules were, or maybe what he couldn't say. That part kind of confused me. But what's crazy is that they did have the time stone and that they didn't use it against Thanos. So later on in that battle, um, uh, Iron Man gets wounded like to the point where everyone thought he was dead. I thought he was dead. So basically, you end up having Iron Man go face to face with Thanos, and he takes out one of his weapons from his armor. It's like a sword-looking thing, and basically Thanos takes it from him and basically runs it through his side. And you see blood coming out of Iron Man's or Tony Stark's mouth, and after his helmet gets knocked off. And everybody, I think I heard some people sniffling on my side, crying because I'm like, holy shit, this is where Iron Man dies. I was like, fuck, right? Um, and so yeah, basically, Doctor Strange says, look, I'll spare his life. I mean, you spare his life if I give you the time stone. And I was like, no fucking way. So basically, this is the part where Thanos gets the time stone. And so yeah, so I think at this point, Thanos only needs one more stone, which is the Mind Stone, and that's on Vision, and that's on Wakanda. So let me go to this real quick. Let me go through my notes. I'm looking for something before I jump ahead. Okay, so this is what I wanted. Okay, so I'll save that for later. Okay, so meanwhile on Wakanda, they're getting ready for the battle. They know Thanos is coming. One thing that they're trying to do is they're saying that their best bet is to destroy the Mind Stone, and the only way to destroy the Mind Stone is with Scarlet Witch's powers, because her powers came from one of the stones, which was the Tesseracts. Oh yeah, That was the Mind Stone. So they go to Shuri, and they're all like, "Look, can you take the stone out so that Vision can survive, and so that we have the stone, so like that Scarlet Witch can destroy it." So while that's happening, you have the battle begin on Wakanda. The Black Order come down with some these weird fucking alien minion things called the Outriders, and basically they come in trying to break through the force field that's around Wakanda. Basically, they run out of time. Shuri could not get the stone out of Vision's head, and so this whole battle just happens, and this is where we have Thor's entrance, and he comes down with and Rocket and Groot. So they come down, they join the battle. Like I said before, Thor comes in with this awesome entrance. So basically, you have the crews that I said before. Aside, well, basically everybody except for us who was on everybody is part of that battle except for whoever's on Titan, which is uh Drax, Nebula. Um, oh my God, I forgot about Mantis. Mantis. Who else am I forgetting? Star Lord, Spider Man, Doctor Strange, Iron Man. Okay, so those guys are on Titan, because they just lost that battle against Thanos, and then so now you have these guys on Wakanda, pretty much the defense, to stopping him from getting all the stones. So you have different little different little fights going on within that battle, and it just gets so intense because these Outriders are like a plague. They're like fucking ants. They're just coming in like relentlessly, nonstop, and just like during I think it was, well, of course, it was a lot worse than the Jatari invasion, and it was a lot worse than Age of Ultron. Um, because they got swarmed in those battles too. But this one was just fucking relentless. Like it was insane. And then the Black Order too are formidable foes, so they're not anybody that you really want to fuck with. But yeah, so then the battle goes on. Everybody's pretty much losing strength. Thanos finally comes down, and you end up having him go face to face with Captain America. You have Black Panther and all them come in. So all that's happening. Um, Scarlet Witch finally decides to destroy the stone while it's on Vision's head, and all this time she's kind of struggling with this because, well, she loves the Vision, and if she does that, Vision's gonna die. Because the only other way was to do it with Shuri's technique, and that was to remove the stone so that Vision can still keep his entity, and while having the stone separate. And that was due to a theory that Banner had, because of how he was created. So basically, while this is, I believe they took this from the comic book too, from the Infinity Gauntlet. So while they're trying to stop Thanos from getting to Scarlet Witch and Vision, she goes ahead and she's trying to destroy the stone while it's on Vision's head. So Thanos is coming at her, and so she starts throwing her powers at him while trying to destroy the Mind Stone. And so in the Infinity Gauntlet, if you haven't heard that episode, her and Cyclops are throwing beams at Thanos, and he ends up killing Scarlet Witch first by throwing the beam back at her and pretty much disintegrates her. So here he pretty much overpowers Scarlet Witch, and this was another death that was pretty crazy because I'll talk about all the deaths that were pretty brutal. Vision, he pretty much just fucking literally gets his hand through fucking crushes basically through the front part of his forehead and takes the stone. With that said, the most brutal deaths without going to the very end were the ones that didn't die from the snapping of Thanos' fingers, eliminating half of the universe. Loki died a brutal death on screen. Gamora did, and so did Vision. Those were pretty crazy, crazy deaths. And then with this too, this was crazy. So we get to the very end, and Thor is pretty much on a pretty good power level. Um, and this is the part where I was talking about earlier about Silver Surfer having his role taken on by two different characters in this movie. Since he's not in this movie, the first one, like I said, was Hulk. This part being Thor. So in the Infinity Gauntlet, Silver Surfer is working with Adam Warlock, and they basically have one shot to do a kill. Uh, a kill shot basically, or a kill maneuver, to take out Thanos. And in the comic, Silver Surfer misses and he fucks it up. Well, this one, Thor is the kill shot. Thor goes at him with the Stormbreaker hammer and gets him right in the chest. And I was like, oh man, he fucking killed him. Then Thanos goes, "You should have aimed for the head." So basically, Thor missed an opportunity of wiping out uh, Thanos, or taking out Thanos. And with that last fucking breath, he snaps his fingers and he does one last uh, action. And basically, what it was wiping out half of the universe, which was what they were trying to stop. So, quite know what was going on, because before Thanos disappears, Thanos pretty much transported himself away from there. Thor asks him, "What did you do?" And Thanos disappears, and so everybody comes out of like, "Oh shit!" Like the battle's over. Like what the fuck just happened? So this end part of the movie is taken from the beginning of the Infinity Gauntlet, where people are disappearing and the first lives are taken. If you heard my last episode talking about Infinity Gauntlet, when uh, Thanos does this and snaps his fingers after having all the stones, half of the universe gets wiped out, and two of the first heroes that get wiped out are Cersei and Hawkeye. So that's how I thought it was going to get taken. So this happens at the end of the movie, and basically when this happens, it's pretty much the end of the world. It's pretty much the end of the universe. Of course, when people disappear, things that are manned start to go down. Airplanes, helicopters, just cars start crashing. So this is the really sad part. So one of the saddest deaths I think in this scene was Spider-Man, because the first person that we see go down because of this is where I find where that made me realize what was going on is Bucky disappears. So Captain America looks at Bucky, and Bucky just turns into dust, and I was like, oh my fucking god, I know what's going on, right? If I jump ahead a little bit, let me tell you what happens. So we end up on Titan. Star Lord disappears, and I'm like, no fucking way. You have who else disappears from that team? Mantis and Drax. So Mantis, Drax, and Star Lord, they end up being the Guardians that bite the dust from Titan. The only one that survives there is Nebula. I'm like, no fucking way. And Spider Man pretty much starts dissipating, and he's actually the last one, because Doctor Strange, I think, goes before him. He dies too, and I was like, no fucking way, right? So Spider Man's disappearing. He has tears in his eyes. I mean, he's a kid. He's telling Tony Stark, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to die. And basically, he disappears and dies, like, in Tony Stark's arms. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I know people cried. To my right, I don't think anybody was crying, but I think to my left, people were crying. I know my sister was close to it. Um, Me, usually with these movies, I get a little teary eyed, or I get a little, tear jerk reaction. And this one, I was so fucking amazed by how this movie was filmed. And I'm not saying none of these moments got to me, but I was just taking it in, that none of that affected me. I was more watching it as in what the fuck. So Spider Man, yeah, he was one of the ones that got taken out, and it was just really sad. Um, so basically, that's what happens in the end of the movie, and at the end, it ends with Thanos on kind of this little peaceful piece of paradise, and he's alone in a shack, and he's just remembering Gamora, and in his mind, Gamora's asking him, "Did you accomplish what you wanted to do, and was it worth it, or how much did it cost?" And he's like, yeah, that he did what he needed to do, and that basically it cost him everything, and that it was worth it. And he's there, and you just see him smiling, and he did what he thought he had to do, which was bring balance to the universe. And in the comic book, it ends the same way, but it ends a little different. It ends with Thanos being defeated, because the heroes actually win, and they end up bringing everything back to normal. And here Thanos, well, in the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos is more like, I don't need that power. I'm not. I'm glad I don't have that power after all. But I thought that version of Thanos was a lot weaker than this version of Thanos, because if you heard my Infinity Gauntlet review, I really didn't like it that much. I thought it was good, but it was weak in terms of how they had Thanos play out as a villain, and how they had his motives play out. But yeah, so basically, this movie ends with Thanos winning. There's no turning, or there's no, flip to it. Thanos wins, and you have a whole bunch of heroes die. With that said, there's no mid-credit scene, but there is a post-credit scene, and in the post-credit scene, oh my god, it was fucking insane. So when all these people are dying, of course you see the deaths on Titan, which are in space, and then you see the deaths in Wakanda. And I'll get to that in a bit, um, because I actually skipped those deaths. Well, you know what? Let me do this real quick. So these deaths, you have Bucky was the first to go. If I jump forward to because I wrote a list here. If you jump forward to Titan, you lose Drax and Mantis. On Wakanda, actually Groot is one of the ones that goes, and it's just so insane because he dies right in front of Rocket again, and Rocket's just like, no, like what the hell, like. So you have Bucky, Drax, Mantis, Groot, Star Lord, of course, that was on Titan. Spider Man is on Titan. Black Panther gets taken out. He's actually one of the he's actually one of the ones that gets taken out. Infinity Gauntlet too. Falcon gets taken out. Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch gets taken out too. If I have a correct list of survivors, M'Baku is a survivor. Thor. Black Widow, Banner, War Machine, Rocket, Nebula, Iron Man, and Cap. Those are pretty much all your survivors from all the characters that we had. So then let me jump forward to the post-credit scene. So the post-credit scene is pretty amazing. We didn't have any cameo from Adam Strange, which is fucking weird, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get him in the second act. Because I heard that Russo brothers stated that characters who didn't get a whole lot of screen time in this movie are going to get more screen time in the next movie. So basically, what happens is you go to a city. I'm assuming it's New York, and it's Nick Fury and Maria Hill driving down the city, and basically they're getting an update saying that like, yeah, there's no response from Tony Stark. They don't know where he is. He's unaccounted for. So when that happens, this car just crashes into him. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck's going on, right? So like, there's just a whole bunch of chaos, and I was trying to find out what part of the movie this was on, and I find out this is at the time when Thanos snaps his fingers. So Nick Fury and Maria Hill come out, and they go to the car to see, who's inside it, and nobody's inside it. And at this point, I still hadn't clicked yet. I'm like, what the fuck? And then there's a helicopter that crashes into a fucking building, and I'm like, oh shit. So then Nick Fury looks at Maria Hill, and she starts to disappear, and I'm like, no fucking way. So Maria Hill's another one that takes it. So when that happens, Nick Fury takes out this little device that he has on him, and as he does that, he starts to disappear, and I'm like, no fucking way. And he's trying to, take out this little. He's trying to, use his device, and I'm like, what the fuck is it? So as he disappears, he says, motherfuck, and then everybody was like kind of cheered and laughed and was like sad at the same time because like that's an iconic Samuel L. Jackson phrase. So right when he's about to say that he disappears, the device drops to the ground, and basically he's sending that device was sending a distress signal or a beacon to none other than Captain Marvel. So it just shows the Captain Marvel symbol, and then the screen goes black. So basically, it was a setup for Captain Marvel coming out, even though we do have Ant Man and the Wasp coming out. So we're gonna have Ant Man and the Wasp coming out as far as MCU movies go. Then, if I'm correct, it's gonna be Captain Marvel next, and then we're gonna have Avengers 4. We don't know what Avengers 4 is titled yet, but so yeah, guys, that was the movie. With that said, I fucking love this movie. I actually thought it was perfect. Um, and I don't think that about. I don't think that much about. I don't think that about much movies, especially MCU movies. I've done reviews on MCU movies before, and I haven't had any that came out reviewed as perfect in my opinion. So this movie to me was perfect. This was my favorite movie. Um, as far as no, it is my favorite movie, and I'm gonna say still that Winter Soldier and Civil War are extremely close because I didn't have the podcast when those movies came out, so I couldn't do a review on them. So I'm gonna give this movie a fucking 10 out of 10. This movie was fucking amazing. It had a beginning, middle, and end that didn't flip flop or that didn't take back what it did. Thanos was a fucking legit villain, and what's crazy about this movie is you don't have a movie where the villain wins, and that's exactly what this was. And on top of that, the Russo brothers even stated that this was indeed the end of the MCU that we have known of so far, and the story is going to continue, but this was the end of everything that we've seen in the MCU so far. So right when Avengers 4 comes out, we're going to have a whole different chapter. Um, I'm pretty sure Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place right before these events. So hopefully we don't lose Ant-Man or the Wasp or both at the end of their movie because of Thanos snapping his uh, finger. So that was that. With that said, I'm gonna go through a little bit of extra stuff that I have written down here. One thing that did kind of trip me out is on the credits. Sean Gunn is credited on in this movie, and as we all know, he plays Kraglin, but he also does the motion capture for Rocket. But the crazy thing about this is that at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Kraglin is indeed part of this team of Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's not in this movie, so we never know what happened to what happened to Kraglin. Maybe they said something in the film that I missed, but Kraglin pretty much isn't accounted for. So if anybody wants to start any kind of campaign, since we know where Hawkeye is, or what where Hawkeye's and Ant Man's whereabouts are, it should be where's Kraglin, because there was pretty much no explanation as to why Kraglin wasn't there. Another thing, sticking to Guardian stuff, James Gunn. What was crazy about this movie is they wanted the Guardians of the Galaxy to act and talk like themselves, and they wanted them to feel like the Guardians that we knew, which are James Gunn's Guardians. I mean, the Guardians are James Gunn's kids after all. So a cool fun fact for you guys to know: James Gunn actually wrote all the dialogue for the Guardians of the Galaxy in this movie. So it's pretty cool that Marvel has that kind of pool where you can have directors help other directors, work on their characters for this movie. So I thought that was a fucking awesome thing. And then still one more thing that has to do with the Guardians that I just want to talk about before I pretty much end this episode is that I have a feeling that in the next movie, we did have a teaser at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Sylvester Stallone's Starhawks Guardians, which were the first version of Guardians in the comic book version. So Sylvester Stallone was playing Starhawk, and he led his own version, his own team of his own Guardian-like team. So what I'm thinking is that that was their setup to be in Avengers 4. So I'm thinking, since we pretty much lost all these Guardians, that Starhawk and is going to get a distress, or he's going to find out what happens to the Guardians, and they're going to join. So we're going to have, yeah, the pretty much original Guardians of the Galaxy join the next battle, or the next you know part of MCU history, and join in the battle. We'll see what happens there, but I mean, like I said, this movie was just fucking amazing. The fight sequences were awesome. Nothing seemed out of place here. You had you had humor in this film as you did with all the other movies, but it was kind of, I mean, if you kind of think about it, these guys are heroes. They have powers. They don't think they're gonna lose a battle the way that they lost this battle, or they don't think they're gonna lose the way they lost in this one. So of course they're gonna be, joke around a little bit with each other when you have that kind of confidence, especially with the stuff they've been through together, and how they know each other. There's gonna be some kind of joking around. It wasn't layered on too thick either. They put it in at the right moments. But yeah, the ending was just a fucking brutal ending. When the movie ends, you're like, what the fuck? And you're not mad at it. You're just like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, Thanos, I guess, would have to be the ultimate villain in actually any comic book movie. Because, I mean, he ends up doing what he wanted to do, and I mean, he wins. The villain wins. That's what's so fucking insane. So with that said, that's my, Infinity War um, episode. I didn't go too much into Easter eggs and stuff, although I think I kind of did. I think I'm kind of proud of myself. I think I did a good job of weaving the Easter eggs, quote unquote, from the Infinity Gauntlet and from what I knew about some of the other Infinity storylines into the info that I saw in my first viewing of the movie. But let me know what you guys think of the movie, if you've seen it already, or when you listen to this episode. No matter when you listen to this episode, whether it's a week down the line, a month down the line, let me know what you think of the film. Hit me up. Talk to me on Facebook at Convo Breaker Geek Podcast. Hit me up on Instagram at Convo Breaker GP, on my personal Instagram, MV7.0. And of course, I want you to hit me up on the podcast email, Convo Breaker Geek Podcast at gmail.com. So, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you get to see the movie soon. Like I said, hit me up. I want to know what you guys think. And I will see you guys next time for episode 55. Later.